Chris Johnson reporting that the Ukrainian Hockey League general manager, so the manager of the league, was fired for speaking out against racism.
What? When did he tweet that?
He tweeted this out 28 minutes ago. His name is Eugene Kolichev.
So that was the guy who tweeted the punishment yesterday that most people retweeted, I think.
So here's what he said. I have spoken openly about racism in Ukrainian hockey, and the Ukrainian Hockey Federation fired me as general manager of the UHL today. Will it solve the problem? No. Will it silence me? No. My voice has been ignored in the decision over the penalty against Andrei Deniskin, who showed a racist gesture to Jalen Smereck. Smereck, excuse me.
Deniskin and Smereck, yeah.
I am publicly appealing to the AAHF to conduct its own investigation of the incident and help #end racism. Jalen, we got your back. So I'm assuming that Eugene was the guy that had to send this out yesterday. I'm assuming this punishment, where, by the way, it took them too long to figure out what the heck they were doing, and then they figured out what they were doing, and what they hand down to Deniskin is essentially a 3-game suspension with an $1,800 fine. It's 13 games, but if he pays a fine, he can get 10 of those games back.
And I saw different reports of what the fine is.
I think probably because it's American Canadian dollars and stuff like that. I think it's $1,800 American dollars.
Because I saw 1,800. I also saw 180.
I saw 1,800 mostly.
1,800?
Yeah.
Okay, let's settle on that.
Now,
wow.
Obviously, we said on the last episode, hey, this needs to be an enormous deal. Mm-hmm. And I think the person that actually summed it up the best is some guy you've never heard of named Elliot Friedman.
I was so excited for a minute. Who is this new person I'm going to hear
It's Elliot
from?
Friedman. Who's ever heard of him?
No one.
Article from Sportsnet.ca, how the IIHF should react to alarmingly soft Deniskin suspension. Friedge said that you got to do 3 things. First thing, the IIHF has to send a message that individual federations will face consequences if they cannot adequately police these incidents. Yes, the player needs a harsh ban, but if the country itself is unwilling to do so, shouldn't punishments include hurdles to the Olympic or World Championship qualifying or withholding funding the UHL would normally get from the IIHF?
Wow.
Said these would be major consequences, but sometimes, sadly, you have to hit people in the pocketbook to make them feel remorse. And that is so unbelievably true. Number 2, the IIHF has to make sure Smereck is being paid while he's taking a completely understandable leave of absence. This incident is not the fault. This incident is not anyway his fault, and he should not lose a cent over dealing with his emotions. I'd argue that Smereck should be paid every cent of what he was supposed to earn this season, even if he doesn't play another second in the Ukraine.
Yeah, I don't know what the salaries are in the UHL. I imagine
it can't be high.
Yeah,
it's not gonna be high.
I don't think so.
Third, it is incumbent on the IIHF and really the entire hockey community to ensure that Smereck is found another opportunity to resume his career. He's 24. He has dedicated himself to the sport, and should be rewarded for that. If he decides he does not want to stay in this current situation, surely there is another team in another country that can use his talents. It sounds like the effort is already underway. Smereck played for the AHL's the Roadrunners last season. There is some word that the American League is considering it, and there are some teams in it that are considering it. It was a relatively short article, and I'm sorry, Elliot, I just radioed you here. I read the whole thing, but I don't
think he would be upset about that.
I don't think anybody summed it up better, and Elliot's really good for that, obviously. We were talking last episode about pathway forward here, like what is to be done. And obviously, you don't need us to tell you the suspension is soft. You don't need us to tell you it's short. You don't need us to tell you that it's not solving anything. And you don't need us to tell you that there's a racism problem in Eastern Europe. Duh.
Right.
And in hockey.
And in Europe and in the world. We get it. We not that we should stop listening to it, but we do understand that. And it's particularly bad here. You can tell it's particularly bad here based on the suspension. Akim Aliou, who is the chair of the alliance, he said, "Listen, what kind of message does this send? You have a racist gesture and you lose a couple weeks of hockey? That's it?"
Yeah. That is, well, okay. And so what we were talking about last show, going back to, I generally try to assume the best of people, is I said, by the time our show is up, the IIHF will have made some sort of decision. Wow, is it taking a long time. Now they absolutely have to. What I think they were probably hoping for, well, they've had to the whole time, but what I think they were hoping for was the UHL. They probably want to let lower governing bodies make the right decision.
They have to at least let them try.
Let them try. They haven't.
Yeah.
They haven't. And now it's no longer even about Deniskin, right?
It's about the Ukrainian league.
Well, it's about the Ukrainian league, and it's about the precedent that it sets.
Right.
Like, you in the UHL, you can do whatever you want. Basically, you can do whatever you want. You can, do whatever racist gesture you want, and you're going to face little to no consequence.
Mm-hmm. I have so many questions for the people who made this decision, because it became an international incident. Like, that's what it was. And the opportunity here to showcase to the world what, if you care about hockey, you can showcase to the world what hockey means to you and what the community can do if something like this happens, and your tolerance for a racist act. Like, the people in charge here had an opportunity to, on a global stage, to show what hockey is. And they chose not to do any of that. And instead, they chose to pretty much throw up their hands and be like, this is kind of, it's okay. Like, it's nothing worse than a bad play on the ice, like a high sticking that gets you suspended or something like that. So I'm just shocked that they wouldn't, if they care about the game, they wouldn't take this opportunity to show what it can be.
I also want to say that his club team, HC Donbass, or Donbass Donisek.
That's Smereck's team or Deniskin's team?
I thought it was, it's
I think it's
team.
Smereck's team.
That is Smereck's team.
Yeah,
Okay.
They tweeted out that they were absolutely outraged by this as well. They are supporting the player. And I want to put this into context for you, because, this team, as far as Ukrainian hockey goes, is about the best team they've ever seen in that league.
They used to be in the KHL.
They did used to be in the KHL. And in fact, when they were in the KHL 13-14, the last time, they lost in the conference semifinal. They have won 5 of the last 6 championships in the Ukraine. This is the most influential team in Ukrainian hockey. By the way, they also took a 3-year break, but they won in 2010, 2011, and then again in 15, 16, 16, 17, 17, 18, 18, 19, lost in 19, 20, and then won again last year.
If I remember correctly, I think their arena was severely damaged in the, I believe there was a revolution.
Yes. Oh, yes, there was.
Oh, yeah. And it was bad.
Yeah. So this is a...
The damage was.
This is an extremely important team in the Ukraine. And I do want to say, maybe the league didn't step up, but first off, I think this team is going to step up. I'm sure they're going to pay Jalen. I hope they're going to pay Jalen.
Donbass?
Yeah.
They would have the resources.
They would have the resources to do it.
Yeah.
You would hope so, but like, what's happened so far, it doesn't look like anything of that sort's going to happen.
Well, I mean, I think the team tweeted out it's outrage. They think this is outrageous.
Sure,
and
then
but
so did the GM, and then he got fired.
The GM of the league got fired.
Okay.
So what's happened here is there's obviously higher power. I don't know what the ownership structure of the UHL is, but I would assume that whoever it was is probably politically connected and probably doesn't care. But what's really important here, and I think that we have to give credit where it's due, that this hockey club, which is highly influential, is standing behind the player, and that this general manager lost his job over this. And I think it's important that the fans of this league, and obviously because it's an international incident, are the fans of this team and this league. It's like the New York Yankees coming out and saying, "Hey, we're not okay with this." That has influence. That can create change. And I hope that them coming out, and I hope the other teams stand behind it. Obviously, I'm not sure about Deniskin's club team.
Donbass is the only UHL team I know.
Right.
Yeah,
well,
sorry.
So I did want to highlight that because I think it's important. It's important when influential people and influential teams take a stand I know it's basically the bare minimum, but it's better than what the league did. Is it not?
Yeah. And this is why, like, Friedman's suggestions, I would imagine, are educated guesses, right? He's a very connected guy. Like, I don't think he came up with that, like, out of thin air. Mm-hmm. So if the UHL, well, I was going to say if the UHL fails here, then he needs to be right in terms of what the IIHF does. UHL's already failed. So now it's up to Luc Tardif, who's been on the job for a week, to come down on them.
And he was just elected this weekend, and he's the president-elect. Like, I don't even think René
he's
Fossel,
not even in charge.
Not quite yet. And he said, obviously René Fossel was kicked out, but I'm not fully sure that he's even fully taken over yet.
Oh, that's a very interesting wrinkle. I did not think of that.
Right.
Really?
Yeah, he was a real...
Interesting. Well, whoever is in charge of the governing body, like, it doesn't matter.
Right.
It doesn't, like, what are Fossel and Tardif going to be so differently aligned?
Right.
You know, I don't know about this racism thing. I think we need to,
yeah,
you know
exactly.
What I mean?
Exactly. So, I mean, yeah, it looks like he is considered that. But again, he's just started this. But he's been there for a long time. He's been a part of the IIHF for a long, long time. I know I'm looking at the Board of Governors for the IIHF here. And, I mean, you've got Bob Nicholson on there, too. So you would think he would be a pretty major player.
Oh, really?
And there's people from around the world on this. Pavel Bure is a council member. It is sort of a who's who, and it'll be very interesting to see what they do. I imagine that the IIHF is taking their time here to get this right, because I think
you don't have to imagine.
Yeah, they are. So
they've had 24 hours already at the time we're recording this since the decision came down. Mm-hmm. Right? Not even the incident. The incident's like nearly a week old.
Yeah,
isn't it?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Come on.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure, like, again, like we said last show, I'm sure there's all sorts of legalese that's getting in the way, but come on.
Yeah.